I'm Roger Sholley, former reporter with the San Diego Union Tribune, here with Peter Jensen to talk about some of his articles in the Reader in the 1990s. And one of the ones you wouldn't think you'd be interested in is something that touches all of us, really, and that's stucco. What is stucco and why is that so important?
You know, I wasn't sure I was very interested in it either, to be honest with you. But outside of an Irving Gill building one day, and arguably maybe our greatest or certainly most famous from a history standpoint architect, I was with a fellow named Wally Cunningham who designs houses today, and is quite famous for his houses that are very sculptural. And Wally told me that, I'm pretty sure it was Wally, said that Gill was as interested in the way shadows from the trees were cast onto his buildings as the buildings themselves. That Gill saw this stucco wall as a canvas. And I thought, okay, well, a lot of things are made of stucco. Sounds good. And I thought, no one's ever going to write about stucco. So maybe I'll do something new. I think it was a journalistic lesson too, from a guy who has never taken a journalism course in his life. Mm-hmm. English major type. I thought, well, it's a good story because, in journalism, you're looking for a source. You're looking for an authority. And I thought, I'd already learned it my days when I was writing for Sunset Magazine. They're out there. You can find them. And so I started asking around and I said, who's the best stucco contractor you know? And sure enough, I found this guy who just was in love with his work, and people loved his work. I mean, some of the finest houses in San Diego had hired him to hand do the entire outside of their house in stucco. No guns, no spray in it or anything like that. And sure enough, you're off to the races when you find somebody like that because they're so passionate about what they do and so knowledgeable about it. And then he led me to some of the architects who use it in town today, and there's so much more to it. And of course, it's history. I go into some of that, but a lot of it is an appreciation for the way it's applied and its uniformity, but its lack of uniformity at the same time. In other words, it's not sprayed on, but it's finished in some way.
What is the difference between stucco and plaster?
Not that much, really. I mean, it's basically a cementatious concrete-like material that covers up something that needs to be protected underneath it. And so, you take something like Casa de Estudillo, or the old, an old house like that. As we all know, that unless it's protected from above and the sides, and some of these rainstorms we get in San Diego, the rain comes in hard and fast, sideways almost.
And they whitewashed those adobe exteriors, wouldn't they?
Yeah, and that would have practical applications too. I mean, an adobe structure is already cool naturally because of its thermal mass, but also to reflect that heat that's bouncing off basically the bare dirt that surrounded our early houses. Mm-hmm. So I thought that it was a fascinating story to write, and this one architect in particular, Ken Ronchetti, it was just like he wanted to talk about this for the last 15 years, but he hadn't found anybody who was willing to listen to him.
I have to admit, I never wrote about stucco as a story, so...
Yeah, see what I mean? And he was willing, there's a certain curve that you put, and a certain curve to the top of a stucco wall, if it's an open wall. And and that angle has to be just so. And there's a way that the light, and honestly, all these years later, all I can say is that the word he used was the way the light spills over the wall. And the light's not liquid, the last I checked. But honestly, in Ken's eyes, it was. I mean, it just was an aesthetic element. And going back to what I first mentioned, was, come on, the way the shadows fall on buildings up in Balboa Park and things like that. if just look, just notice those on the side of a stucco building. And I know you're involved up there in the park so deeply that that's one of the things we love about that park is that they're not just blank walls. You know, that's a canvas for shadows, even our own shadows sometimes walking by. I loved it. It was fun.
Well, thanks very much for a little lesson on stucco.